the Prophet ﷺ said this. And then, now that it's becoming more relevant for them. Now it's becoming more lively for them, as opposed to, okay, we've got to give zakat because it's over the Quran, it says this. That should happen when they're already learnt everything and the Quran means something to them more. And then somehow these are the words of Allah. That will happen later on, but now we've got to engage them through this. Okay? So that's one way of doing it. Okay, I just want to show you a few really interesting things. This is a sketch, according to some scholars, which Prophet drew in the sand. Okay, so showing that Prophet didn't just lecture, he also used visuals as a teaching methodology. So what I did, I used that, and I thought, let me be a bit more creative with what Prophet did, and try and see how students could try and come up with their own. Okay, here's one of the sketches I did on an iPad with the sand thing. Let's move down. Okay, so here's another one. So what I did was, one thing you could do is, okay, why do you think the Prophet drew this? Don't tell them the hadith. Say, what do you think this means? Why did the Prophet draw this map? Is he drawing a ruler, or what is it? So they discuss. Okay, that would be a really interesting discussion. We tried this in one of our classes. Prophet drew this in the sand. Why? And then they have their discussion for about 10-15 minutes. Then you tell them the answer to become more meaningful, or even more interesting, swap it around. Okay, swap it around. Give them the hadith and say, try and draw based on the text what the Prophet drew in the sand. And then they come up with their different drawings, and then you show them, this is what some of the scholars came up with. Because ultimately, these guys who drew this, they weren't there as well. They've been looking at the text and coming up with their own images in the sand. Okay, so you can do it both ways. Can you see how I'm playing around with these activities? Be creative, be synthesize, use one thing in a different way. These, I came up with it myself. Okay, because when you start becoming creative and you start thinking ahead, you will come up with these things, and what will happen? It will become the norm. And that's what we need to make sure it happens with our children. Okay? Especially in this day and age, because they become critical and they engage with the world. So there's different kind of learners. Some can see things, learn more. Some can listen to things and learn straight away. I kind of feel, after spending 8 years in madrasa, I'm pretty good at auditory learning now. That will be the case with a lot of our teachers who are from madrasas. Because if you're sitting down every day for 5-6 hours and just listening, your auditory learning skills will become very, very strong. Very strong. Okay? And that's why when I went to university, I could listen to the lecture and remember the year after what was said. Right? And interestingly, I was in a lecture once, in just say 2010, and there was a person sitting next to me. They were asked a question, and they answered it. Okay? Then came 2011, same situation, same question. The next year, they were asked that question. They couldn't remember it. I could remember the exact situation, the exact scenario, and the answer for it. Okay? That's an auditory learner. I'm not really an auditory learner, but I've become good with it because I've been listening to lots of lectures in madrasa. Okay? So that's one argument for saying, in madrasas, they say, oh, you can't just listen to lectures, but hold on, you're improving one of your skills. That's one thing that you can put forward. And kinesthetic is, when we sit down, discuss with each other, you're moving around. That's kinesthetic learning going on. Okay, we could get through this. Okay, differentiation. Just do a bit of a lecture, just to get through this very quickly. Sorry about this, I shouldn't be doing this, but time is not with me. Differentiation, individual needs. Now, a very important quote. I love this quote. Okay, we have animals with different skills, different strengths. Okay, an elephant is absolutely, you can say, rubbish at swimming in the deep sea, whereas a fish is very good. So if you have an exam where the question is, or if it's a theory exam, a practical exam with an elephant and a fish, and you ask the elephant and the fish to swim in the deep sea. Elephant's going to do rubbish, the fish will be doing really well. Change that around, dry land, it'll be the opposite. So the quote is, for a fair selection, everybody has to take the same exam. That's the kind of thing that we're doing now. Please climb that tree. Okay, that's what we're doing in our schools. We're giving exams, and we're expecting everyone to do the same thing. But people don't learn like that. They learn differently, very differently. Okay? Some people are good at reading. Some people are good at exams. Some people are good at essays. Some people are good at drawing. Some people are good at acting or dancing, whatever it is. Art. So, for a fair selection, everybody has to take the same exam. Please climb that tree. The only person who will be really successful is the monkey. Okay? Fish has already failed, although it's on top of a little tree. But you get the point. Okay? That's why personally I'm opposed to exams. In our madrasas we don't have exams. We tuck them out completely. Okay? We have different kinds of assessments, and we have projects where students are engaged, And hopefully towards the end, we are going to come up with different ways of assessing, just to see whether students are progressing and they're moving along. And if teacher knows that they're progressing, we leave it to their professional, judgment. Okay? Move on. Everyone is a genius. Einstein said this. But if you judge a fish on its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life believing that it is stupid. Okay? Some children are very clever, extremely clever, okay? But they can't write so well. They haven't mastered that. I mean, Einstein himself, he couldn't write in school. And he said, and we mentioned this to our students, you've got to become independent learners. When he was at school, he was terrible. After school, when he began learning himself and became an independent learner, he became a genius. And everyone's heard of him now. Okay? Schools are producing test takers. That's it. That's what's happening today. Yeah? And that's where madrasas can really go ahead and say, no, we're not going to do that. We're not going to produce test takers. We will produce individuals who can critically engage and creatively engage with their world and everything around them. And this is what we need to do. And this is what the Prophet ﷺ did. Okay? He didn't produce test takers. But he produced individuals who transform this world forever. And that's what we need to do. We need to think ahead. Yeah, that's what we need to do. Prophet ﷺ had high expectations. You know, on your lesson plans that I've given out, one of the standards of teaching is have high expectations. Prophet ﷺ had expectations that were touching the skies. I mean, there they are, right, in Battle of Khandaq, and they're breaking a rock, and they're trying to defend their city. And why are they making, the ditch or the trench? It's because they can't go out and fight. That's the situation they're in. And when Prophet ﷺ stands to break the rock, at that point he gives them high expectations. He says, look, I can see you taking over Persia. I can see the jewels and crowns of the Persian Empire and the Byzantine Empire. And the Sahaba say, hold on, look at the situation we're in now. I have one rock on my belly to pull my hunger. You have two rocks on your belly. This is a true teacher. Okay? He has expectations which are completely going through the skies. And this is what we need to have for our children. We need to have that love for each and every one of them. Because every one of them is important, and they can achieve that. And Prophet ﷺ believed in that. These were guys who were fighting over petty issues. Right? They were like, in secondary school, they were like the students who were always in trouble. Okay? Always getting in trouble. Always fighting with each other. Here, Prophet transforms and makes them leaders of the world. And we can do this, and we have to do this. We have no other choice now. We're living in interesting times. Let's make the most of it, right? So this is the time now. Okay. Finally, we come to our main activity. What you're going to do now, inshallah, is you're going to create a lesson plan with all the information that I've thrown at you. Sorry about the speed and all that. I'm sure you've taken some in, you've done some discussions. You're going to create a lesson plan in pairs. I would advise that you write on your own lesson plan so you can have it for later on, you can use it. For either primary or secondary, you can decide that in your pairs or even in your threes, it's up to you. Okay? You choose the age group, so you can say is it year 10s, year 11s, or just have it general. You may use the lesson plan outline provided. So can I just borrow this sheet for a second? So I've made a lesson plan outline. I did this last night, it's very quickly. Okay. I'm going to give you a lot of time for this as well, so don't worry about it. Look through this first, you can look through this. Okay. I'll explain bits of it to you as well in a minute. I'll explain what these things are. What you've got to imagine, now when you're planning this lesson, put yourself in a situation where you're going to plan this lesson for a mixed ability class. Now this is the interesting bit. I'm going to see how you differentiate. I'm going to see whether you're asking a fish to climb. I'm going to see whether you're asking an elephant to swim the oceans, because that's what we're not supposed to do. Okay? So you have a mixed ability class. There is a student in your class with severe vision impairment. Okay? I've come up with information and data. I've changed the names of people, obviously. We have Anjum Banwala. I've just made that up. Okay? And he has severe vision impairment. What are you going to do with him? Now, he can only see about 20% to 30%. How are you going to teach this guy? I've given you information on how you can do it. But you've got to use your lesson, and you're going to be writing about zakat or sadaqah. Okay? Zakat also, if you want to do another lesson, that's fine. As long as you're planning a lesson, I'm happy with that. I'm going to pass this round as well. You're going to look at some of the information, and you're going to include him in your lesson plan as well, because he's important. He's not just going to come in the classroom in a madrasa and just sit in the corner and just sit there, and just sit there for the next 5 years and come out not knowing anything. Okay? In schools, they go through a lot, for each and every individual. It's not, for Muslims, it's even more. Like, subhanallah. Okay? Abasa wa tawalla, what is it about? Differentiating. Directly about someone who's blind. Right, Prophet he's teaching a lesson. Okay? And it's to the gifted and talented students. Okay? Who are they? The kuffar and the leaders of Makkah. And in comes an SEN child, right? Who can't even see what's going on. He walks in, he says, Prophet, teach me something. Okay? Prophet just looks, he's a bit unhappy with what's happened. Okay? Because Prophet expects better, but he's blind. So then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reveals the surah saying, no, don't do that. He's more important to you. He's SEN. Okay? That's why, just imagine, this is what Islam is teaching us. Okay? And how we've got to kind of incorporate that into our own lives and into our teaching. So a student with severe vision impairment, you're going to use this to help you plan that lesson. 2 students who are ADHD require full attention and have learning difficulties. So they're basically going to be jumping around and they won't be able to sit down properly. What are you going to do for them? Okay? You might want to plan something extra for them. Okay? They might want to do something extra. When everyone else is doing something, you might say to them, look, I want you to write this or draw this or design a little book. And they will get on with that. Okay? Do something that they like. You've got to know your children. Okay? Last one, 4 children who are more able. They're gifted and talented. Remember, they may get bored after completing before everyone else. So there's 4 children who are really clever. They'll finish the task off within 5 minutes, where everyone else takes 10 minutes. What are you going to do for the rest of those 5 minutes? Okay, let me give you a clue. What I tend to do is, what I would have done, but I forgot to print it, sorry about that. I was going to give those students from Waltham who are gifted and talented the 5-minute lesson plan. But how can you convert the traditional to 5 minutes? So once you finish, the extra time you can do that. Okay? Or I can put something up. Extension. Okay? And those gifted and talented know that once they finish their work, they've got to do this. So there's something always extra for them as well. Because what's going to happen is behavior management. Okay? What's going to happen is they're going to finish early. You've got the severe impairment child. You've got 2 children who are running around. And then these 4 kids who have finished everything, and now they're messing around. Can you imagine the chaos? You've got to plan for this. You've got to plan for this. Okay? So 4 children who are more able. Remember, they may get bored after completing before everyone else. I will pass this round. Everyone understand the task? Yeah. Let me just go through the lesson plan very quickly. Okay? Because some of you have seen this for the first time. Okay, at the top, just to remind you, I've put the Bloom's Taxonomy. You can use those for your objectives. Underneath, the class name, numbers, and all that. That's the traditional thing that we do. Presupposed knowledge. So what have they learned before? And how does it link in? Okay. You can write on this and notes on this if you want. Concepts and misconceptions. Okay. What's the concept of what you tell zakat? What's the concept behind it? What is it about? What is it for? Who is it for? Differentiation. So can you see I wrote GMT and SEN? What are you going to do extra for the gifted and talented? And what are you going to do for the SEN? SEN means special educational needs. So for the child who's got problems with seeing, and also the 2 students who are ADHD, what are you going to do for them? Just scribble it out on here. And if you look over here, what I've done on our lesson plan, okay, is I already wrote out, I've covered the name just for safety purposes and stuff. I wrote out who's who, what class they're in, which table they sit on. Okay? Each of our tables are named after an Islamic empire. And who's SEN, I just added them on. Okay? Who's visual impairment, who's who. So if you have a lesson plan, if you do that just once, it's always saved. Write down who's who, where they're at, what they're doing. So when you're planning, you always you have a good grasp of who's in the lesson, who you're teaching. Next page. At the top, learning objectives, learning outcomes. Okay? And then, after that, the starter. Okay? I'll put that little fish there to remind you it's like the bait. So what are you going to do? How are you going to excite them into learning? Okay? What might you do? You can use some of these activities that we've done today. You can use them. Why not? Starter. What are they going to do in that starter? And remember, if you look, there's 3 columns. There's 4 columns, actually. One is for the time. How much time are you going to take on that starter? Teacher methodology, so what you're going to do, and what the students will be doing at that time. And the last one, what will you as a teacher be doing at that time? So what will be happening as a class in a whole? It's a very tough work, teaching. Okay? If you do this after some time, let's say about a year, you won't need these lesson plans anymore. You've got to, however, do them at the beginning. So you can structure your lessons in your mind later on. But at the beginning, you've got to do it this way. I mean, you can do it in other ways as well, but this will give you a good grasp of who's what and what's happening. Next page, then, is the main activity. We have left a huge gap for you. Following that, at the end there's plenary and homework. Okay? Any questions? Everyone knows what they're doing? You can do this in pairs, but do try and write the notes in your own sheets. I'll give you about 10 minutes on this, 10 to 15 minutes. Is that okay? Yep, everyone knows what they're doing? Inshallah? So you're directly engaged in... It's always a spare.
Sorry, what's the lesson on?
It can be on sadaqah and zakah, or you can choose your own topic. Because we started off with sadaqah zakah, I thought you'd have a good idea. So if you've done a plan already, you can use it but change it now. If you've done a plan already, use it but change it. Yeah. If anyone does need to use the toilets and stuff, they're just outside. Yeah.
Oh, you did one before? Yeah, you actually did your homework.
Anyone else need a lesson plan?
No, I didn't email it though, to be honest. Because I don't know, so I didn't have time.
You can write on the lesson plan, the ones I've given you, the outline, you can write on it. That's yours. I'll start coming around giving the information for the visual impaired child.
Yeah, so for differentiation, anything that we print off has to be on like A3 paper or something for the visual impaired, I guess. If we do print off anything else, so even those diamond shaped worksheets, they have to be big writing, maybe bigger, instead of, A4 or something like that, bigger for that student.
Okay, information about the visually impaired child. So how are you going to teach the that to him? Use this information to help you teach a visually impaired child. Yeah, how are you going to do I'm trying to differentiate. It's not. If you have any questions, you can always call out for me.
Fair enough. That's quite,
I'll take these back at the end, inshallah.
Yes,
This is the actual student in my class, but I've changed the names and a lot of the details.
that's fine.
Okay. So if you know this child, right, what I have to do with him, every lesson, I have to print out the whole PowerPoint in big writing. That's the first thing.
That's what I say for
Yeah, that's the first thing. If there's questions, and I've got to do this every week, just for this one child. I have 20 lessons, but when he comes, his lesson, I've got to make sure I'm doing this. So the whole PowerPoint gets printed out, huge writing, and even then he reads it like this. Even though that would be this big, and he's really looking this close. And he's got to sit at the front. That's something you can add. Sit right at the front. It's near the teacher. Okay, but you can't also make it obvious that you're doing it because of his needs, because that will put him down as well. Yeah. So I'm quite happy about the whole reference to sort of Abasa wa Tawalla. But he's going back to that. I mean, the Quran is so deep, we can look at it from different angles, different perspectives. So we've got to take care of this children. So this child is in my class, and they update this every 2 months. It gets updated, the information here. Every 2 months they add some stuff on, take some stuff off. I've taken off a lot of details, which I didn't want to do.
From his state school?
From my state school, where I teach.
Okay.
And what they do is the government give extra funding for students like that. So what we can do as madrasa teachers, if we have a student like this, you can say to your parents, look, can we have their statement? Or can we have their pupil passport? So you don't need to pay anything. The government's done all the job. The school's done it for you. You just get print out that, use that. Yeah. That's why a lot of phone calls I get from our madrasa is, my child has special needs. We've heard your madrasa caters for me. Yeah, bring them on. And then we ask them, look, do you have a statement? Do you have this? Do you have this? Yeah. Have you been on courses before? Teaching courses?
Yes, I have been on, it was a little while back. Been on one of Anas from Forest Gate.
Might have seen him, but...
Yeah. He organised something slightly similar, obviously all trying to be more depth and use a different angle. Yeah, it was just about, the second one I went to also was about creativity. And the Sheikh was giving different techniques that useful use for creativity in the classroom.
So he's just adding on there. That's what it's about. You keep on going to these courses.
Yeah, I have realised that a lot of the techniques that are used in school, especially nursery, is more into the marketing system.
Yes,
they're effective and they've improved.
Yep.
Alhamdulillah, yeah, there's a whole revival now.
And this is like they're used to that.
Yeah.
So because what happens is their mind used to one way of learning. When we come to madrasa, they have to change that. Yeah. I was watching this thing yesterday. This guy, he learned how to ride a bike. He knows how to ride a bike. What one of the engineers did was he changed it in such a way that when he turned the thing right, the pedal goes left. So it took him 8 months to learn how to ride that bike. And then after 8 months, when he was asked to go back to the normal bike, he couldn't ride it. It took him, I think, about a week to go back onto that. It's the way the brain works. Yeah, so.
Yeah, children like from nursery year 1, they like colours, they like they want to be stimulated.
Yeah, if you look at our cupboard, we've got obviously massive pipes in there, but there's lots of stuff that they colour with. We've got rice, colourful rice. We've stick letters in there. They have to search them, find it. Little kids. We have a lot of reception kids. We've got nursery kids as well. A few of them who are still come in their nappies. We've tried to send them away, but the parents are like, no, we're going to school. So yeah, right.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So this is one of our classrooms.
Oh.
So we use another classroom next door.
Saturday, Sunday.
At the moment, just Sunday. Because I teach work throughout, like 5 days a week, so it's hard to do Saturdays. And plus, they're quite expensive here. So we might move and have another school. But school environment, I think, is better than where the teacher sits down. It makes a huge difference. Huge difference. What do you think, Ustadh Yahya? Ustadh Yahya is one of our new teachers. He's new into this. How are you coping with it so far?
Swings and roundabouts. It's alright.
But you're doing really well. And the way we're doing it, our teachers actually plan these lessons. And what we've got this WhatsApp group. I'm just telling you so you can kind of apply this as well. In every class, we have different kind of teachers. We have a teacher who's a planner, teacher who's a assistant, teacher who's a helper. And what the job of the planner is, and they get paid accordingly, is they have to plan the lesson. And when they plan the lesson, they have to incorporate all the other teachers in the class, what they're going to be doing, who they're going to be helping. If there's someone with SEN, special needs, how they're going to help them. Right? And what happens then is they're given, that lesson plan is a picture's taken of it, goes onto WhatsApp 2 days before the lesson. And all the other teachers know exactly what they're doing. So when the lesson starts, as soon as you come in, everyone's it's like magic, because everything's happening how it should be. If you step back, everyone's doing something, everyone's engaged, because it's been planned for. There's planning that's taking place. Otherwise, if you get 30 kids, throw them in the classroom, 2-3 teachers, even 10 teachers, it won't work. You need to plan that lesson. So that's what this was all about. This is basically what we've done today. Is literally the tip of the iceberg. Yeah. There's so much that can happen.
Will you be having any more?
Yes, we are definitely. What we're going to do. This was basically, we were not supposed to kind of call people from outside. It was just going to be for our teachers. Then some of our teachers said, look, let's just call some local teachers. And we just put it on Facebook. We didn't really advertise it. And whoever wanted to come, they just came along. So what we feel now, we'll do it more structured. So maybe we're going to break it down, just focus on one thing. And just focus. But today what we did was, we could have done it better if we did it over 3 courses. Just focus on it properly, not rush it. So we are going to do that, inshallah. So watch out for us. Like us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter. Okay. I don't think we have Twitter, but yeah. I'm coming round, inshallah, to see how much progress you've made. Yeah, this is for the end, right at the end. So if you want your DVD, you've got to just put mention at the end and address and everything else. It's just that I didn't get the time, because I finished this PowerPoint late at night, about 3 o'clock, and each DVD took me like 20 minutes. That would have been another 3 hours. So you've got one. What you got?
What's the age of
There's 2 classrooms. Sorry?
Oh, it's 2 classrooms.
Yeah, there's 2 classes.
If you find this difficult, don't worry about it. Just at least looking through it.
About 4, 5, 6, 7, that kind of age. And the other one's about 8 to 12, with a couple of 13, 14 year olds.
Okay, we've got about another
Who do you teach that?
5 minutes.
Inshallah.
5 minutes.
This was the first class.
8 to 12.
Yeah. Inshallah, we'll have more classes after the summer. So then, as time goes on, the classes will be very age specific. So there'll be less differentiation needed for age. But there's always special needs and things like that. I've still got a kid in my class. He just doesn't write, he just draws. So I just tell him, draw this, draw that.
Yeah.
Like with the Prophet's sermon, draw how you would have felt instead of writing a whole diary. So you can just work with them, tailor things. So you said you're a nursery teacher?
No, I'm, my children are from about 6 to, it's quite varying, 6 to 9,
Yeah.
majority of them. You've got a few odd ones. So one's a 12-year-old, one's 10. There's a few odds, but majority of them are 6 to 9. 6 to 9.
It's still a big challenge of 6 and 9.
Yeah, it is a big challenge.
Let's put something down here. Please start from here or differentiation. How many kids was that? 4.
No, GAT's 2 cent. Actually, 3 cent. The 2 ADHDs and the 1 visual impaired.
Okay. Everyone look this way, please. Okay. Usually when you have a long activity which goes over like 15 minutes, what you can do to quickly check progress, and it's like a mini plenary they call it in the middle, just to check progress. Mahmood news. What tends to happen then is, if you if you teach the students well enough, what they're supposed to automatically do, get into pairs, okay, and discuss 2 things that they learned so far. Okay? Discuss it, and then get ready to share at the end. So I'll give you, actually, I'm only going to give you 60 seconds. One thing that you learned today that will benefit you, and what you could apply and use. So if you can discuss that with each other, and then I'm just going to quickly take your names out of the pot and ask you just for about a minute. Off you go. Just to shake you
How
up
to
a bit.
write effective lesson objective, how to set an effective lesson objective using the rules that
How to make students ask good questions rather than asking questions.
Okay, you've got 30 seconds. 30 seconds.
My one is differentiation. Different techniques used to target different learning abilities. That's what makes challenge.
You've got 20 seconds. 20
It's
seconds.
quite frustrating sometimes. I'll sit back and I think, very nice. But ask the ways to.
Do you think you can remember a lot of what we've done today?
Especially with the resources you've given.
Yes, and you can use them. There's a lot of stuff in the trust me. It'll take you months to go over all of it. We're going to move, so inshallah. You can use that. Links there. If you want DVD as well, please do mention it. We are going to kind of get that done as well.
Ustadh Yahya mentions that you believe differentiation is easy. What's your truth?
Differentiation is easy.
Easy, yeah.
In our madrasa we've made it easy because we've got 3 teachers in every class.
Oh,
Do you understand? Yeah. And we've got 1 teacher who's planning. So we did it because to make it better than school, 1 teacher gets paid for their planning as well. And they plan for the other 2 teachers. And the other 2 teachers read what they need to do for those particular students, those little groups. That's it. So as soon as you walk in, everyone knows what they're doing.
So that teacher is designated just for planning.
No, planning and teaching. So they're like the main, and usually those teachers, they're qualified academically. So there will be someone who's got a degree in child psychology or something like that. Or someone who's a primary school teacher and they want to teach in madrasa. We'll give them that, they're good at that. Someone who's a scholar, right, we'll make them like focus on tajweed. Right, but at the same time learn from that planning. So they're learning from each other. I think it's working really well so far. What do you think? It will get better and better, inshallah. Yeah. So it's not that difficult. It's difficult in my situation if I'm at school. I've got 550 kids I teach every week. planning for them. I have a class where there's about 10 ADHD kids. Honestly, I mean, it's just impossible. Really impossible.
I said earlier to these guys is that differentiation, I think, is more difficult for Muslims because of the varying ages.
Yes, very true, very
In
true.
school, they usually put in sets, and they're usually the same age in the class.
Yeah. The way we deal with it is, right, you know, there's different tables that we have. They're all based according to their age or their ability, right? And what happens, we have different teachers who are supposed to focus on them. So those extra helpers, the planner allocates for them who's going to help who. And we know exactly what, so you need to kind of assess them, find out what level they're on ability, based on, you don't have to have a set scheme of levels, roughly who's the same age group, put them together, and that's it. And once you have it once and structure is there, then you're just going to flow magically.
I did think of that, but then the only flaw I could think of that was
The fault, yeah.
the flaw would be you're labeling the children. So automatically the children would know that table is the
No. That's why we've taken away that. We've given them Islamic Empire names. You're the Ubids, you're the Mamluks, so there's no labeling at all.
No, but then I know you're directly but through obviously working, they'll know that these boys have ones where
I think so. No. In school, that is the case. With us, kind of rush through it, and you've got all the resources you can have access to. I'll just read out one or two of these tweets and see how the learning went. Let's just pull one of these out. I won't say the name, but I'll just read it out. Have very high expectations of all students. Very good. Okay. 2, use different tactics for different students. Example, don't use same stakes for all. So differentiation, that's what we call. So you differentiate your learning for individual students. Okay. We have a student in our class. He is not so fond of writing, so we make him do the same thing but in drawing. Okay. The same thing in drawing. He's really, really good. He does 3D modeling with paper, but he can't write so well. He's very clever. Okay. He makes guns, like proper guns where you can clip just with paper. Okay. But he can't write. Doesn't mean he's dumb or he's stupid. No, it means he's very clever. He's a genius, but in what he likes to do and what he's good at. Okay. Similar to Einstein. Okay, have fun with your child for 7 years. Perform ta'deeb on him for 7. Brilliant, Imam Ghazali. It's very important. We base a lot of that around our philosophy. 38 question starters based on Bloom's taxonomy. Yep, it's very good. The link's there on PowerPoint. PPPB. Brilliant. Pose, pause, pounce, and bounce. Okay, I've learnt the lollipop, learning, debating, learn to keep it exciting for children. Good. I feel that progress has taken place. Ustadh Mariam, what would you feel if we were focusing on progress? Do you think so far progress has taken place? Oh, brilliant. Okay. At FES Academy, the 2 main things that stood out for me were differentiation and concept of knowing how to teach and not just what to teach. Brilliant. Okay. Hashtag FES Academy. Hashtag feeling excited. Hashtag no more test takers. Brilliant. Okay, excellent.